Hello, good day everyone. So we're here again for another episode of our channel, Transcending Consciousness. I'm Tim,
And I'm KC.
and for this episode, we will discuss romantic relationship. So,
And why people usually break up or why married couples undergo divorce. We'll discuss all of this.
yeah, we'll also discuss how you find the right partner. So we will discuss romantic relationship in the context of a spiritual growth and spiritual awakening.
In romantic relationships, we have this idea, the Hollywood idea that people will meet each other, and they will fall in love. They will live happily ever after that. Or sometimes in the movies, we can see there's some conflict, and the couples will try to resolve the conflict, and then they will live happily ever after. But actually, because of watching these Hollywood movies or any TV series, we are slowly being indoctrinated, or we are slowly, our society is trying to create this picture of what romantic relationships should be. So now, as we try to apply it in our lives, we have these certain expectations, we create these certain standards of when we meet someone, we have our certain checklist. For example, I want a woman who has a fair complexion, who is kind and sweet, who knows how to cook, and who help me always, support me always in my plans. And sometimes women, they also have these certain standards when they are trying to look for a partner, like a tall, dark, and handsome guy, strong, gentleman, those types of qualities. So we are looking for those qualities when it comes to relationships. There's something to say.
So remember, when we like what Casey said, we usually have a checklist what we look for a partner. But sometimes we forgot to look at the beam in our eye. So before we actually magnetize the right partner, we should change ourselves. So what are your psychological hang-ups? What are the qualities that you need to change to improve in order to attract the partner? So most of us actually think of or look for a partner who will complete us.
Yeah.
So we have that notion that we are incomplete without this other person. But in order for you to find your partner, you should be complete within yourself. So that's the only way that you will have a loving, balanced relationship with another person. When you do not seek another person to complete yourself, because you are complete within yourself. And another thing to note about all these qualities that you look for, this checklist that people look for, is that they wish to find a partner so that they will not change psychologically. Like you want someone, a very kind, patient partner, so that they will be always patient when you are angry, you are when you have all these mood swings, and then you want this other to always understand you. So this is actually difficult to maintain, and it's hard to find a person who will tolerate your inconsistency. So what's actually better than trying to find a partner who will tolerate you is that you change yourself, be a better person than what you are now, and magnetize the right partner for you.
That's well said, Tim. So what happens usually at the beginning of a relationship is, we all know the honeymoon stage, right? Where people fall in love, they feel happy in cloud nine. So at the beginning, what happens is that our egos, we set aside our old behavioral patterns. We put our best foot forward, as the saying goes, meaning we try to do our best to impress the other person so that he or she would fall in love with us. So then, during the honeymoon stage, everything's fine, everything's perfect. And then what happens? What gradually happens? Slowly, as the relationship goes by, slowly the ego, our ego selves re-emerges again. We now demonstrate our current characteristics of, for example, being a hothead or an ill-tempered person, or someone who gets irritated all the time. So that during the relationship, now the ego emerges, and with these negative qualities in us, we start now to have arguments with our partners. Okay, fights break out, and then slowly these petty things will slowly diminish the flame, the love flame between the two people. And then sometimes the reactions of our partner, they just try to tolerate us, they just try to understand, they just try to be patient. But until one day, sometimes they cannot handle it anymore, and then they also now fight us, or they try to control us. They try to force their way. So that in the long run, as our relationship goes by, it slowly diminishes. The love slowly diminishes until people break up, without correcting our psychological issues, our personal behaviors. When we break up and we try to find another partner, we will still attract the same partner who will show us what we need to transcend or to change in ourselves.
So many people actually question the fact that why am I always attracted to this kind of personality? Or bakit na lang manloloko ang aking boyfriend or girlfriend? So these qualities highlights what you need to transcend. Why do you attract? You need to seriously ask yourself, why do you attract such person in your life? Do you need to learn something? What is it in me that attracts this type of person? Remember, most relationships are there for you to learn something. So, as we have said in earlier discussions, that the purpose of life is growth. Relationships also, the purpose is the growth also. When you do not learn a certain lesson, you will keep on attracting the same type of personality that will force you to look at the issue in more and more difficult circumstances. So if ever you have this kind of problem wherein you attract a certain type of person, you look within yourself. Ask yourself, what is it in me that attracts this kind of personality? What is it in me? Do I have that feeling that I need to be loved? Do I have that feeling that I'm always incomplete without another person being there to complete me? So it's very important that you look within yourself. Why are you having this kind of relationship? What is it that I am not learning? Why am I attracting this type of person again and again?
That's very nice, Tim. Remember, guys, the purpose of relationship is for us to know ourselves, okay, in relation to another. So because of the other, we are now experiencing who we are. Without others, how can we know who we are, okay? So indirectly, our partners will show us what we need to change in ourselves. So for example, for every behavioral patterns we have, it has a certain level, a quality of energy. So it vibrates from our core being, and then this vibration will attract the same energy. So we attract the same people with the same kind of energies that we are sending out, okay? So indirectly, that people, our partner will indirectly show us that we have that kind of vibration in us. For example, I love to rant, okay? I have this ranting energy inside me. My behavior is always ranting. So the time will come when I will just rant to my partner, and then slowly she would be irritated and she would feel negative also. She would feel my negativity, and then she would also start ranting. Okay, and then now when she starts ranting, and I have this certain expectation standards that my girlfriend or my partner should be sweet, but when she started ranting, she now violated my standards. Huh? Why is she ranting to me? She should be a sweet girlfriend. So now, because she broke the expectations, I became angry or I became irritated towards her. So you see, because of that, she is actually indirectly pointing to me that I have this standard that I should let go. Okay? That I should, oh yes, I have this ranting behavioral pattern in me. Or I have this standard that women or my partner should be sweet. So I should let this go. Because these standards, we are forcing our partners, or we are trying to indirectly violate their free will to become who they ever want to be. So because of my standards, I'm now becoming irritated. I become angry. Why am I not following this? Why am I not becoming sweet? So yeah, I have to remove that standard so that I will not react in a negative way towards that to my partner.
So remember the verse that you must first see the beam in your own eye before removing the splinter in another. So sometimes we blame our partner for this attitudes, for this personality in them, without looking within us, without looking, do I have that same personality?
Yeah.
Do I have also a problem with my psychology that I need to resolve? In order actually to find a better partner, to find someone who have a higher level of consciousness, we should also strive to raise our consciousness. So we try to resolve our psychological hang-ups. We correct our wrong thoughts, imperfect emotions. So we try to remove anger, remove fear, fill it with love, remove the thoughts of jealousy, thoughts of expectations, and change it to thoughts of trust, or thoughts of understanding, and that understanding energy, that you understand the other person and then understand yourself. Romantic relationships are, it's not always what we see in the movies about all this lovey-dovey. It's more because that's the honeymoon phase, but sometimes in the movies we're only the ending is there. We don't see the ending, what happens in their life afterwards. They could break up or whatnot, but we don't know. Because the purpose of relationship is still growth. So as long as you are growing with your partner, it would be necessary to continue the relationship. But if there's stagnation of growth in your partner or yourself, then you might need to change the tune and maybe end the relationship. So I think what's also important is to discuss about breakups and divorce. So what can you say about it?
So what happens, because in relationships when people get married, okay, most of the time the honeymoon stage is already finished. Okay, so marriage is just like a legal thing. You have to protect the rights of both parties. So what happens most of the time is the ego is already out there. Our ego selves is already out there. So doing all those negative behavioral patterns. So what happens is that someone, a controlling person will control the partner, and that partner will just submit to the other. So in relationships, in marriage, sometimes they try to just be together, okay? They think that being together for the longest time is a sign of a successful relationship. But what happens most of the time? Our parents, for example, or our grandparents, they have these bicker arguments. They always have these petty arguments going on. They will just, they will fight most of the time. So do you think there is growth in that kind of relationship? So it's not. They're just trying to be civil, trying to not to damage each other, and then yeah, that's it. And then in other cases, when one party is so abusive, so that's a time when they break up. They break up, or they try to find another person, or when the love is already gone, and the guy or the woman, they sometimes they find another person, so they fall in love again with that person, and then they break this up. So what happens if they do not resolve their issues? They will continue to repeat the same mistakes over in their next relationship. So that's why many people, they try to get married and they get divorced again, then they get married, they get divorced, just continuing the cycle without growth, without learning their lessons. They have something to add?
So with regards to divorce, you know that our country does not allow divorce. We are actually one of the very few countries that do not allow divorce. But if you actually look at it, what's the purpose of it? That is growth. So when you are no longer growing in a relationship, especially if there's abuse, there's violence in the family, divorce should be legalized because it will help these people to break up and find their respective partners in order for them to grow better. And if you accept the reality of reincarnation, then we would have many previous spouses before our current spouse. So there's actually no truth in saying that, oh, this is the perfect partner for me forever and ever. Because in your previous lifetime, you might have a different partner, you might not have had a relationship with this person in your previous lifetime. So it's important here that in the Catholic tradition, we are taught that no, that a man and wife is bound together by God, and no other human being can put it asunder. What does that mean? If it's truly that sacred, then every marriage should be perfect. But it's just not the case, because we have to look at the reality of our psychological hang-ups and all of the things that we need to resolve. And that if the purpose of life is wrong, then no, we don't need to stay in a relationship where we are not growing. And actually, there will be a very good argument for not legalizing divorce, of course, the children, because of course there will be trauma in the children if they grow up without a mother or a father. That's why it's actually better if two people really, for the purpose of procreation and their love for each other, wants to grow up together and grow old in this lifetime. That would be good, but the reality is that's not always the case, because this is an imperfect world. This is not the ascended realm, so we all have to resolve our psychological hang-ups. That's why, for me, I think divorce should be legalized, even in the spiritual sense. What do you
I remember you said, Tim, that what God has put asunder, joined together, no man should put asunder, something like that. So actually, what we have learned is that the man and the woman, they are not really, like I said, they are not literally the husband and the wife. Okay, the husband represents our spirit. Okay, and then the woman, the wife, represents our consciousness. So what God meant was that, by that passage, or what the Bible meant, was that our consciousness must always follow the will of the spirit. So the wife should always follow the will of the husband, meaning the spirit, the divine plan of the spirit must always prevail. Okay? So what happens is, actually, what separated the wife from the husband is not another people, but our egos. Okay, we are here today on earth. We are actually, the ego is the one trying to control things. Okay, neglecting our divine plan. Focusing too much on the lower selves, on the needs of the physical body, of pleasure. So because of that, we are all creating all sorts of negative things in our lives, creating struggle, creating hardships. We are hurting other people. So when we realize we are not the human body, we are not egos, and we are spirit. Both of us, for example, our partners, both of us know this truth. Then that's the time we can actually grow together, evolve together spiritually. Okay, without the whims of the ego, always trying to get attention from from our partner.
So in our life, and the perfect partner is actually someone who can let you grow together for the duration of your lifetime. Like whenever you see a psychological hang-ups, you let that partner know, and that partner is of a level of consciousness high enough to accept the faults and look within himself or herself and try to resolve that psychology. And that wife or that spouse also does the same thing and tells the husband about all the psychology that she is able to pick up, but it's not readily seen by the husband. So this continued growth in consciousness is the perfect partner for you this lifetime. That means there is no stagnation. Both of you are growing. And once you've reached a certain level of consciousness, you also urge your partner to rise up higher to that level, to another level of consciousness. And this is what is actually the perfect partner for you, one who will let you grow in consciousness for the duration of your lifetime. So all these psychological apps. And an important point in finding this partner is, of course, for you to be able to change yourself, to be able to have the humility to know that you are not perfect and that all your imperfections, you can improve them. Now, even if you can see all of them, so your partner reflects it to you so that you can see it. But when you see it, you don't feel guilty, you don't feel angry towards that partner for showing you your imperfections, but you thank that partner and work with that with your imperfect psychology, with your imperfect emotions, and try to resolve it. So when you do that continually, then you will grow tremendously in that lifetime with even just one partner.
That's very nicely said, Tim. So remember the passage we have discussed before when Jesus told us, "There's no greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friend." Okay, so as we said, this passage does not mean that we should commit, we should die to save another. No, what Jesus meant was we should lay down our old lives for the sake of having a better relationship with our spouse, not only in romantic relationships, but within all relationships, family relationships, our friends. So that's the beauty of it. No, we should always change, and then for the betterment of the relationship, so that we can all evolve together. Actually, I have another idea. I just wanted to share. Since with reincarnation, actually, before we reincarnated in this current lifetime, we already planned this meeting with our spouse and our friends, for example. Oh, in this lifetime we will meet, and then because we need something to resolve from each other. No? Because in the past we created negative karma towards each other, and then with our meeting and with marriage, we can actually have the opportunity to resolve the negative things we have done to each other. So yeah, when people meet, sometimes we know that you just feel you know this person for a very long time, and then when the honeymoon is over, the issues come out from us, and then those are the things that we need to resolve. Yeah, sometimes towards the end, people can feel why this happened. This person suddenly now becomes your enemy. So because we need something to resolve.
Yeah.
And change, as Tim told us, change is the key.
So beautifully put, KC. Regarding that change should be you. So the change, you don't seek to change your partner, but you change yourself. So Because some people would go in a relationship to with a bad boy or a sort of questionable integrity person, and then they wish to change that person, but that is futile because you actually are not in control with the reaction of that person, so you cannot actually change him. You can inspire them to change, but you can never change them. You can only change yourself. And that's the key to getting the right partner for you in this lifetime. Change yourself, improve your psychology, raise your consciousness to magnetize the right partner for you.
So I would like to add something. Always remember the sacred law of cause and effect, okay? For every current behavior we have, for every current negative behavior we have, there are corresponding consequences. Okay, if we do not change, these consequences will lead to breakups, heartaches, sufferings. So if you keep expecting our partners to change without changing our behavior, that is actually insanity. Doing or being the same thing over and over again without changing ourselves. So in order for us to have a better relationship, go back to that point, we should change ourselves. No? For example, I let go of my expectations that my wife or my spouse should be sweet. Okay, if I let go of that expectations and when she acts angry or irritated, will I now get mad to her or not? So we will not. We will not be affected if we let go of all our expectations, all our created standards. We will not react negatively. So there will be no struggle, okay? So we can actually point her out, like, hey, in a very nice way, you're acting, you have this behavior that you should try to change. You will not get mad or irritated. So yeah, that is the key. Change, self-transcendence is the key.
And you can actually inspire that person to change and to have a higher relationship wherein you can grow continually in this lifetime. But in some instances, you actually can't control the other person. So if that person is not willing to change, then you have to decide: do I need to stay in this relationship for the duration of my lifetime, or will I need to move on in order to grow? So that's a personal relationship that we might also discuss maybe in the future once we have discussed other topics related to relationships.
I remember one last thing. Okay, I would like to share something. When it comes to divorce or when people are already at that stage, they are thinking of divorce. Usually, the answer to this is do everything to save the relationship. Change yourself. If you need some help from psychologists or family counseling, do it. Do everything. Sometimes they prefer to use they try to use the violet flame meditation to transmute all of their negative karmas. And when you have done everything in your power to work out your relationships and still your partner does not want to change, then as Tim said, we have the right to move on, to the next level of to our spiritual evolution, so that we are not held back by a certain person.
So thank you.
Thank you again.
And we might discuss different relationships in future episodes with us between families, parents, children. But comment down below if you have any questions, and feel free to contact us anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.